Hello and welcome to Film Lovers. I'm Sonia Chung. I'll be talking to people who work in the film industry and who are also avid film lovers. Today I'm joined by a screenwriter. He's been on so many times, he's like a regular now. Tom Jolliffe. Hi, Tom.
Yeah, I'm the guest that won't leave.
Yeah, you're like the annoying sort of house guest that won't go.
Yeah.
Except you're not annoying. It's a pleasure having you back.
Well, thank you, Sonia. How are you?
How's the school holidays treating you? Easter?
I'm
holiday.
halfway through and I'm really counting the minutes now.
The kids are everywhere, aren't they?
Yeah, it's kids everywhere and it's, entertaining my daughter as well. So, yeah, it's I'm running out of ideas now.
She'll probably pop in at some point, won't she?
She might do, yeah. She's doing a few pictures and things, so she might end up coming to show me.
Yeah, that gate crash.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell everyone what we're doing today, Tom?
We're doing a special on Bruce Willis. So most of the listeners may know or may have heard that Bruce has recently announced his retirement.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he's been suffering from aphasia, which kind of is like a cognitive illness. So it's quite difficult as an actor, trying to memorize your lines and trying to kind of communicate your lines. So
verbally, yeah. It's really sad. I really hope he gets the treatment he needs.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, he's kind of coming up to 70, so I mean, he might have been getting to that retirement stage anyway, but obviously it's a bit earlier than he would have envisioned.
He's been dealing with it for a long time though, apparently.
Yeah, I think, from myself being a screenwriter, I sort of heard about this around about a year ago. It's been kind of like an open secret in the film industry.
Yeah.
So people weren't entirely sure exactly what it was. I think when the rumors first came out, they were sort of mentioning dementia, but obviously he's been diagnosed now with aphasia. So yeah, it's been difficult for him, and he's been doing so many films lately.
Yeah, he's got a few coming out quite soon, hasn't he? So he's been very busy. So we still have, some to look forward to.
Yeah.
So
I think, part of it was he was kind of, while he still just about could, he was trying to, cram a lot in.
Yeah.
And I know some people have sort of said that a lot of the producers and companies are maybe kind of were a little bit cynical and trying to sort of get in as many Bruce films as they could.
Yeah.
So.
But we're going to celebrate his career, aren't we?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he's done so many legendary films.
It's amazing actually when you think about it, because you wouldn't think of how many films he's been in throughout the years, like really good films, and sometimes he's so kind of unrecognizable that you forget it's him. So I think that's a good lead way into it, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
So we'll do what we normally do, where you pick one and we can talk about that, and then I do one and vice versa. So as you're the guest, why don't you go with your first choice and tell us why?
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to go for 12 Monkeys.
Okay, why 12 Monkeys?
So this is a Terry Gilliam film. So he, the ex-Python member. So he does sort of quite quirky films usually, but this is kind of like his most, I guess, conventional kind of sci-fi film, and it's still got kind of like quirky moments in it. But basically, it starts in like the post-apocalyptic world, kind of after this virus. Sorry,
not COVID.
Not COVID. This virus has kind of wiped out a lot of humanity, and it's kind of like this horrible world now. So Bruce Willis gets sent back through time to kind of try and avoid this happening, because the virus is started by like a terrorist group who basically released this virus out onto the public, all starting from monkeys, the virus.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, he gets sent back, and then when he comes back, he he gets arrested, and he ends up getting put into an asylum where he meets Brad Pitt.
Hmm.
So Brad Pitt is playing a fellow kind of asylum inmate, and then it's there that kind of middle point of the film where you're starting to wonder just whether he actually is from the future or whether he's kind of suffering this kind of paranoid delusion.
Mm.
Yeah, so it's quite an interesting film, and it's kind of there's a little bit of comedy in it.
Yeah. I've never
But
seen it, to be honest. I mean, I
yeah,
know of it, but it's one I definitely have to get round to watching. So there's not much I can say about it, I'm afraid.
no, I mean it's definitely worth watching. I don't want to say too much because there's a few twists and turns
Yeah.
along the way, and I think it's one that people should kind of watch. But I mean, it's one of those really great sci-fi films where you can kind of interpret it in different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Terry Gilliam was always known back then for being a real kind of perfectionist, almost obsessive in how he wanted to, shoot a film.
Yeah. I
And
can imagine.
there's a famous story about this shot, and it's only kind of like a minor shot in the film, but he did so many takes on this because in the background of the shot, there's this hamster in a wheel, and he wanted
Mm.
the hamster to be running on the wheel, and it's nothing. Mostly, 999 people out of 1,000 wouldn't even notice the hamster wheel.
Yeah.
But he was so adamant. He was so adamant that he wanted the hamster to be running in the wheel because it's almost also representative of what Bruce Willis is doing, kind of going back through time, and it's kind of looping and things. So he wanted this shot so much he just wasted a day on it.
Nobody notices
Yeah.
it, really.
No, nobody notices it in the end, but he's always been one of those directors that he tends to go over budget. He has problems with producers because he just wants to get everything kind of perfectly as he envisions in his head.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Bit like
but I
a
mean,
Stanley Kubrick.
yeah, a bit like Kubrick, yeah, like a quirkier version. um, but yeah, Bruce Willis also, it's one of his best performances.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I can imagine he would have been really good in that film. I need to see it because I can't really say, like I said, I can't say much about it.
yeah. I mean, he's playing this guy that, I mean, if he really is from the future, he's kind of been kept away and shut away by himself for a lot of the time.
Mm.
So he's kind of, he's either from the future or he's either in an asylum. So either way, quite, uh, he's quite a highly strung character. So it's quite interesting to see Bruce not playing like the cool hero
Yeah,
for a
or the
change.
the action hero.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Is he like a scientist or is that the Madeline Stowe character?
No, she is. I think she's a journalist in it. Yeah, and then
Oh,
there's
okay.
yeah, but yeah, Bruce is he's just this guy. He gets sent back because I think they send certain people back through time because they're genetically made up so that they can be sent safely through time.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
but no, it's quite an interesting film.
Yeah, no, I'll have
Really,
to
yeah,
definitely get
yeah,
around to watching it.
interesting hints throughout.
Yeah. Is it a long film?
It's about 2 hours, so
Okay.
fairly standard.
Yeah. All right then. Shall we move on to one of mine?
Yeah, can do.
Um, I was trying to think. There's so many. I don't know how to start. Where to start? So, we did try record this last time, didn't we? And it crashed. I know we're having all kinds of technological problems. We gave up in the end. So I think I said, or suggested the kid. Have you seen the kid?
Uh, I think I remember watching it ages ago, but I can't really remember much of it.
Yeah, you said that last
Yeah,
time. So before we gave up recording because we
yeah.
we're having problems with Wi-Fi and all that stuff. All right, so my choice was The Kid, which I watched very recently on Disney Plus, and that's a complete opposite to his normal action hero persona. So basically, it's kind of like a family comedy, obviously being Disney, and he plays like a near 40-year-old guy who's, just become a real kind of businessman. Like he's just like this bachelor, and he's basically become really moody, and he lives in this amazing house, but he's doing a job he doesn't really like, and he's getting paid lots of money for it. And then he starts hallucinating and seeing this kid running around, sort of following him. And it turns out that this kid is a hallucination, but he's actually really there because others can see him as well. He's basically Bruce Willis as a kid, as 8 years old, and he has to figure out why his 8-year-old self is there with him. And eventually they do that. It is quite an interesting concept. It's of the 8-year-old says basically how I want to do this. I want to be a pilot. I want to have a dog. La 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 la. When I'm grown up, and he said, and he goes, "Do you mean I grow up to be a complete loser like you?" So it is quite interesting, because you do kind of wonder what it'd be like to run into your child self, or your 20-year-old self, and do you know what I mean? It'd be really an interesting concept, but it's it is a really good film. I was really pleasantly surprised by it, and it is really funny, and it's quite touching as well at moments. So yeah, it's definitely one you should watch again.
Yeah,
you probably
definitely. I
watch
think
it.
I'll have to check that one out because I've got Disney Plus. So
Yeah,
yeah, I'll give that a look.
you could probably watch it with Lulu because it's a family friendly.
Yeah, one of the rare Bruce Willis films.
Yeah. So there you go. That's my choice. There's not much I can really say, I guess, because you haven't watched it for a long time. So you need to do a rewatch. But yeah, so The Kid was my option. Should we go on to one of yours?
Yeah. Okay. I will say The Last Boy Scout.
Okay, I don't know that film.
So this one is like a buddy cop film. So Bruce Willis plays this. He was a former presidential bodyguard, and he got kind of his career ended because he caught this senator trying to force himself on a woman. So he knocks the senator out and knocks the load of his teeth out. So that basically destroys his career. And then since then, he's been like a drunk, and he does private investigation jobs.
Mm.
So he's like he's similar to John McClane,
Okay.
but more like a rundown version.
Okay.
Even by John McClane standards. So, Willis is playing kind of like a down and out kind of bum in it. So he gets hired to look after this woman played by Halle Berry, one of her early roles. And while he's sort of looking out for her, she ends up killed. So her ex-boyfriend starts investigating as well. So they reluctantly team up to find out, what's happened and who's behind it. And it's written by Shane Black. So he wrote Lethal Weapon, and he's basically half of his CV is buddy cop films. So it's kind of like his speciality.
Yeah.
So this one, it's just loads of kind of. So Bruce Willis partners up with Damon Wayans, one of the Wayans brothers.
Okay.
And they're just firing insults back at each other through most of the film. A lot of action, a lot of funny lines. And it's also directed by Tony Scott. So
Ridley Scott's brother.
Yeah, Ridley Scott's younger brother. So it looks really good as well. It's kind of like very glossy, kind of MTV style.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, it's one that gets a little bit overlooked because it has some similarities to Die Hard, I guess. And but it does get a little bit overlooked. But it is a really fun kind of action film.
Yeah.
And Bruce Willis is, really on top form. He was just so good at that. Really kind of dry humor. Very kind of, he's very kind of stoic in it, and just really dry humor with some of his lines. But yeah, definitely a lot of fun to watch. Maybe it's definitely a guy movie. I think it's
Yeah.
one of those. It's just one of those I watched growing up and then just really enjoyed.
Hmm. I'm
Yeah,
gonna give that a go.
yeah, so many quotable lines as well.
Oh really?
You'll start quoting lines from it afterwards to yourself though, not in public. They're all
Yeah,
quite
yeah.
risque.
Okay. Is it my turn?
Yeah, you can have a turn.
Um, so I was going to suggest Death Becomes Her.
Yeah, I recently rewatched this.
I love that
Yeah,
film. I
I
mean,
love it. Yeah,
it's one I have to watch at least once a year. And it always makes me laugh. And it's so funny to see him in a film like that because he's so unrecognizable and he plays a complete wimp, really, isn't he? He's a real
yeah,
nerd. He's a wimp, and he's basically kind of in this love triangle between two frenemies, which is Goldie Hawn
yeah,
and Meryl Streep, who are basically kind of like childhood friends, and they grow up to be complete enemies who despise each other. And Meryl Streep's really mean to Goldie Hawn because she's really overweight, and then she steals her fiance, who's Bruce Willis. And then there's a really funny scene where Goldie Hawn's I think she's in a psychiatric like hospital or something. I don't know, or in prison, and she's in a women's meeting, and
yeah.
it's that bit when they're being counselled.
Is she just there with a tub of ice cream? Was it
Oh no, this was
something?
afterwards. Yeah, this is when
Oh,
she gets
okay,
taken away, and her house is full of cats.
yeah,
And so
yeah,
she's in like a women's council, like women's meeting in prison. I think it is prison. Um, yeah, because she gets arrested. And the counsellor's like, you've been very quiet. Is there anything you want to say? And all the women are looking really nervous. And she goes, yes, I'd like to talk about, what's her name? Madeline
Mad-
something.
Madeline Stone, I think.
That's it.
Something
And
like that.
and then all the women lose it. They go absolutely bored. No, not again. Not this. So that kind of gives you, like a depiction of how bad and how much these two absolutely hate each other and how far back in their past it goes. So Bruce Willis basically he ends up marrying Meryl Streep, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And that's what turns her character, and that's what makes Goldie Hawn's character. What's her name again? I can't remember.
I can't remember her name in that
Yeah,
now.
so
Yeah,
basically she loses it, and that's when she
yeah,
goes really fat and then goes off to jail and all that kind of stuff. And then years later, they basically reunite because the Goldie Hawn character releases a book, and she's lost lots of weight, so she invites both Madeline Surrey and her husband to come, and obviously she's now very beautiful and stuff. And Madeline Stone's expecting her to be like this fat, ugly, woman. and the Bruce Willis character, who's Madeline Stone's husband, is basically besotted by her, and he's kind of like stuck between these two women, and he wants to leave the Meryl Streep character to go back to Goldie Hawn's character. And it turns out they both have this potion, don't they, to make them young forever, basically.
yeah.
And Meryl Streep gets pushed down the stairs by the Bruce Willis husband character. And to get back with Goldie Hawn and all that kind of stuff. It is a really funny film. It's like a dark comedy, isn't it? So there's bits of like horror elements of it where, I mean, the effects are amazing, aren't they?
Yeah, they were really kind of,
Quite far ahead of it.
slightly ahead of their time. Yeah, at the time they were sort of, top of the line. It was
Yeah, like
really,
the hole in
really
her stomach
impressive.
when she gets shot by
Yeah,
man. But yeah, I just like the fact that he's so you completely forget that it's Bruce Willis altogether because he's just so unrecognizable, and his character's a complete nerd, basically, isn't he? He's a complete wimp, and these women are basically
yeah.
walking all over him. And it's so like unlike what we've ever seen him do, basically. So that's definitely one of my favorite films of his. And I think a lot of the time when you mention that film, people forget that he's actually in it. Does that make sense?
It does really. I mean, because obviously the headline is in it, kind of Goldie Hawn and Meryl Streep, but it's so
Yeah.
unlike the characters he was playing at the time.
Yeah, because like I mean, they're like you said, they're the headliners, but like you think Bruce Willis, Die Hard, but I guess they kind of wanted that to be a bit of a shock. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and he plays it quite. He's quite animated in his role at times as well, so he's quite eccentric.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
love when he does that scream, and it sounds like a woman. When she gets shot, when Madeline
yeah,
Stowe shoots Goldie Hawn, and she goes flying across in the fountain, and he has that
yeah,
sort of that real womanly scream. It's really funny.
yeah. But I
Um,
think maybe at the time people had forgotten that obviously Bruce Willis had been making a name for himself as an action guy, but
yeah.
they'd kind of forgotten that he started out kind of more as a comedy actor in Moonlighting,
What?
so
Yeah, he did a
they'd
TV
almost
series, didn't
forgotten.
he?
Yeah,
And called Moonlighting, which was kind of like, yeah, he was a bit of sort of I don't know if he was like not an arsehole, but he was a player, and he was kind of
yeah,
witty and funny. Um, and I think people kind of underestimated that because Die Hard was his big breakout film and stuff.
yeah. But I
Um,
think even in his action films, he was kind of always known as the guy that was, funnier than the others.
yeah,
It'd be between him and Arnie really that they would always have funny lines and very quotable lines.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Can we say his line from Die Hard?
Well, I'll let you say
Okay. But maybe just put a warning. About it. Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker! Yeah, no, it's a great line.
it.
How
It
does he
is,
say?
yeah,
Is that how he says it? He goes like,
yeah, that's it,
"Yippee-ki-yay,
yeah, yeah.
motherfucker!" It is really good. But yeah, so Death Becomes Her definitely. Is there anything you want to say about Death Becomes Her?
No, I think I just really like it. It's that old kind of school. They don't really make too many films like that
No,
anymore.
it's a shame,
Just
isn't it?
about kind of black comedies with an interesting concept.
Yeah. My
Yeah,
sisters watched it and they'd never seen it, and one of them did, and she absolutely loved it. She thought it was really funny. I mean, she
yeah,
was kind of scared the first time because, like, sometimes the effects are a bit too much. But then I think if you see it, you can take it as kind of like a pinch of salt kind of thing.
yeah. I mean, there's some really kind of good effects in it, and it's quite atmospheric. There'll be lots of moments of like thunder and building up all the atmosphere.
Yeah, yeah,
This big kind of gothic, or almost gothic mansion that
yeah. I
they've
love
got as
how much.
well. So
Yeah, I love how much the Madeline Stowe, Meryl Streep's character is such a diva, and she's really kind of like up herself, and it's so unlike Meryl Streep, completely the opposite. And
yeah,
I really like Goldie Hawn's red hair. That looks really good on her, actually, I think. So yeah, for sure. All right then. Well, let's move on to one of your Bruce Willis choices.
okay. I think I'm going to go for Looper.
Okay.
So this is I say recent. It's about 10 years old now.
Okay.
I lose track of time
I've
at
never
my
seen
age.
Looper, by the way. I
Uh,
did hear of it.
yeah, no, it's really good. I think it's on Netflix at the moment, so
Okay.
it's definitely worth checking out. But it's Bruce Willis and time travel again, so kind of doing sci-fi.
Yeah.
But basically, it's about this future where criminals, if they have someone they need to get rid of, like a body, they'll send the body back to the past, and then
Okay.
someone back there called a looper basically will then kill the person, then dispose of them.
Mm.
Because in the future, bodies can't be disposed of very easily at all, so they have to do it in the past.
Okay,
And
that's a strange one.
eventually these kind of loopers, they know they're finished basically when they get sent a victim back with gold bars on their back, and that means they've basically just shot themselves. So their
Oh,
future self, they've had to shoot. Yeah, they've shot themselves. It's called like closing the loop, so it keeps everything tidy.
right.
So yeah, so Joseph Gordon-Levitt, he plays the younger Bruce Willis,
Mm,
um, and obviously Bruce Willis gets sent back, and then Joseph Gordon-Levitt has to kill him, but he kind of he can't do it. Um, and then Bruce goes on the run, but he's got a plan of what he wants to do while he's there,
mm,
which is find this kind of master criminal from the future and sort of kill him while he's young before he can go on this big reign of terror in the future. So it's like a really kind of interesting film. So even the parts in the past, they're set in the future anyway. So the present of the film is near future, and then Bruce Willis is coming from the far future.
okay.
It sounds a bit confusing.
It does sound very
Yeah,
complicated.
but you never actually see into you pretty much don't ever see into the future.
Okay.
So you're only seeing mainly in Joseph Gordon-Levitt's part.
Okay. I think
Uh,
any film that has any sort of concept to do with time travel gets too confusing, like Back to
it,
the Future and
yeah, I mean, there's a moment in the film they kind of know this, and one of the person is talking. Jeff Daniels is in it, and he's really good in this as well. He's
Mhm.
playing like he's a guy that had been sent back by the organization, and he kind of takes care of everything in the past. So he hires all the loopers to sort of kill the people that are getting sent back.
Okay.
Um, but there's a moment where one other character asks him to explain the whole time travel thing, and he says, "No, it's too difficult to explain." So,
I don't
yeah,
blame you.
yeah. But it's a no, it's a really good film. Quite low, sort of low budget. The kind of thing that you don't really see getting made too much anymore, because obviously everything now is like big, massive budget, or it's really small budget and not much in the middle. So this is kind of like that kind of film that's in the middle. And yeah, Bruce Willis is really good, and it's probably his last really, really top film.
Yeah.
I'd say, yeah.
Okay. That's one I've got to watch.
It's definitely one that was kind of like underappreciated. I think people that watched it really liked it,
Yeah.
but it didn't really get a big wide audience.
No, I can imagine. I think I remember sort of having a little bit of publicity, but not really kind of taking off.
Yeah, no, I think because it was a fairly low budget, so they don't have the same kind of marketing budgets as like
Yeah.
Marvel and things. And by that time, Marvel and Disney and everything were taking over all the cinemas anyway. So films like Looper kind of get pushed out a little bit.
Mm.
But it's just great to see Bruce Willis, in a really good role. At the time he'd been a little bit quiet for a couple of years. Um, and also Joseph Gordon-Levitt does a really good Bruce Willis.
Really?
He's really kind of convincing as a younger Bruce Willis. Not so much how he looks, but all these kind of mannerisms and
Yeah,
things.
yeah, yeah.
Kind
That
of,
would be really
yeah,
hard though, wouldn't it? To
it can be, yeah.
take on someone else's
Yeah, I think,
mannerisms.
yeah, Joseph Gordon-Levitt at one point he did an interview about working with Bruce Willis, and he said the best thing for him was because Bruce has always been known to keep to himself a little bit on set, and he's not always kind of one to
Mingly.
engage too much,
Yeah.
mingle. But they were doing a scene together. They didn't have too many scenes together, but they were doing a scene together. And Bruce walked off, and he just said under his breath to himself, but kind of loud enough that Joseph could hear. He said, "Oh, he sounds just like me."
Oh, really?
Yeah, and
That's a really
Joseph,
big
yeah,
compliment.
it was. Yeah, Joseph Gordon-Levitt said he'd never forget that. He
Oh,
just
that's
said it was
nice.
like, oh, yeah, really. He just said that he was in the background, sort of going, "Yeah," pumping, pumping his fist.
I know this is a Bruce Willis like special, but like I saw a film really recently where that's like a kind of another sort of, take on someone else's mannerisms. Face Off, and it's kind of the same because they had to learn each other's mannerisms.
Yeah.
So that's a really good film, by the way. We'll talk about that another time.
Yeah, that'll be the Nick Cage special.
Yeah. He's another eccentric man, isn't he, in Hollywood?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
All right. So should we go on to one of mine?
Yep. Okay.
I want to bring up The Fifth Element. I love that film.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, I love it.
I love that film. I don't know. I mean, I think it didn't do that well, didn't it? Was it a flop? Or did it do really well?
It didn't do massively well at the box office, but then it did quickly become a bit of a cult film.
Classic.
Yeah.
No, I just really like it because of all the colours and all the costumes and all the, like, the detail they put into, like, so the futuristic aspect of it. Like, it was just, I really like that. And the clothes designer was Jean-Paul Gaultier, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So
I think he was
like,
good friends with Luc Besson.
Yeah. Because they're friends, aren't they?
Yeah. So he did all those sort of wild costumes, like with Chris Tucker in it as well. All his costumes.
But I couldn't stand Chris Tucker in that film.
Yeah. Do you know? I think originally, I don't know whether they want. I think they wanted. I think at one point they did want Prince.
Oh, so sorry, you're right. I thought it was Eddie Murphy. Yes, it was.
Yeah. And I think possibly that's why Chris Tucker wears a lot of outfits in it that you could sort of imagine Prince wearing.
Yeah. No, you're right. It was Prince. As well. I don't know why I said Eddie Murphy. I think it.
Well, they might have kind of passed it around to Eddie Murphy at the time as well.
Yeah,
Chris Tucker. This was before Rush Hour, so he wasn't like huge then.
No.
Yeah.
He was. I just couldn't stand his voice in that film. It drove me insane. Because he's like a radio broadcaster, isn't he?
Yeah.
Like this really eccentric. But I liked. It's Bruce Willis in his vest again.
It is, yeah.
And his blonde hair. I loved his blonde hair.
I think it's like, it's a really sort of quirky film, and it's so much fun as well.
Did you like the bit where his mum keeps calling? That's really funny.
It is, yeah. It's just a really funny film as well.
It is. It is like funny bits in it, and I like Gary Oldman in it. He's really like over the top.
So I mean, he's always a really good villain. You can always rely on Gary. But he has so much fun in it as well.
That costume looks really uncomfortable that he's wearing.
It probably was, I can imagine. I like the bit where all the sort of the dark dye on his hair used to keep running.
Oh, I didn't realise.
Yeah, I think it's obviously part of the character. It's almost like a little gag at the expense of, like this sort of men of a certain age with the jet black hair that they've dyed. Yeah. It starts running off their forehead.
Yeah, no, I really like that. And those sort of strange monsters. But yeah, Bruce Willis was really funny in that film. I liked him in that film.
Yeah, and it was really good, really kind of imaginative. And they just, again, they don't really make films like that anymore.
No, because he's just basically a taxi driver, isn't he? And then he gets kind of thrown into this very important mission of saving the universe from being blown up or whatever. And saving the Fifth Element, who ends up being what's her name, Mila.
Yeah, Mila Jovovich.
Yeah, who was Luc Besson's girlfriend, wasn't she?
I think she was. I don't know whether it was before or shortly after that film, but yeah. And that was kind of like her breakout role.
Yeah,
she'd had a couple of supporting parts in films before, but Yeah, Lilu, yeah.
Yeah, I like that name. I was obsessed with that name after. It's like, I really like that name.
Yeah. I had a friend who had a dog called Lilu.
Oh, really?
And she also calls the dog Multipass sometimes as well.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what everyone knows that film for, when she goes, Multipass.
Yeah. But I think she's really good in it as well.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah.
I like the scene with the diva. That was my favourite bit. The operatic blue creature.
I mean, that there's kind of all these different influences in the film. You've got like Blade Runner and Star Wars and like Star Trek all kind of mashed together, and then it's very kind of quirky, like Luc
Yeah,
Besson as well.
yeah, for sure. All right then. Do you mind if we take a quick break, Tom?
Hey, that's
I
okay. Yeah.
need to use the toilet quickly, so I'm just going to press record. I mean, not record, pause. Hang on a second. All right, do you want to have a quick break as well?
I'm good at the moment.
Okay, I'll pause and we can come back. Okay, hello, we're back. Sorry, we needed a quick break. So, Tom, we were talking about The Fifth Element.
Yeah.
And we're talking about the diva, didn't we? That famous bit with the blue alien singing. That's a real opera singer. Did you know that?
I think I remember hearing that. Yeah.
Yeah. So she must have been quite uncomfortable under all that gear. But yeah, no, I really like that song. It's a bit bonkers because she kind of goes into a bit of a funny dance, doesn't she?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, you
She's,
can imagine. You can imagine Bjork coming out with something like that.
Yeah. Oh, there you go again. You're obsessed with Bjork.
Oh, I love Bjork.
All right, let's go into one of yours.
Okay. I think I'll go for one that people might not have seen. A little bit underrated. There's a film called 16 Blocks.
Okay, no, I don't know that.
Yeah, so this one's on Amazon at the moment, I think. So this is another one I think people, at least from the UK, can check out. But 16 Blocks, basically, Bruce Willis was playing a little bit over his age at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So he's playing a kind of old detective. He's on the verge of kind of retirement, and he's a little bit kind of unwell. So he's got heart problems, and he's been kind of past his best for a few years, and he's kind of going through the motions, and has a few problems here and there with his family. So he's given this task to take this witness across 16 blocks to a courthouse because he needs to testify. This witness who is basically testifying against corrupt police officers.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about Willis trying to get across 16 blocks, protecting this witness, and basically getting him to this courthouse so he can testify against some of the people on his team. So yeah, Willis's character has to kind of make this decision because he kind of needs money and stuff, and he's kind of offered, they just say to him, turn a blind eye and we'll take care of this kid and get rid of him. And he's almost sort of tempted because he's kind of that far past, caring that much about his job. But then he kind of gets this second wind to do his job properly, and he kind of starts to have some sympathy for the criminal character who's only like really a petty thief, but he's like a good guy. So yeah, it's a really kind of underrated action film, I think. And Willis is kind of he's the kind of main hero, but he's not kind of playing someone who's indestructible. Sometimes John McClane can be a little bit, well, it's like the title is Die Hard, so it's very hard to kill John McClane.
Yeah.
So, this guy in 16 Blocks is a lot more kind of fallible. He's getting on, he's got heart problems, and he just suddenly decides that he needs to do this, for a sense of honor and to kind of do the right thing. But he's up against it basically because he's got all these corrupt cops on him, and then obviously they in turn make it look like he's gone rogue. So then he's got the main police force after him too. But yeah, I think it's a really good action thriller, directed by the guy who did all the Lethal Weapon films.
Okay.
Yeah. Really good film, and I think it's one that kind of people overlooked a little bit. I think
When did it come out?
I think it was about 15 years ago now,
Oh,
so quite a while ago.
yeah,
But yeah, it wasn't a huge budget. It was quite low budget, but it got kind of overlooked a little bit.
yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So I'm eating at the same time. So is it my turn?
Yeah, you can have a turn.
So can't go without saying The Sixth Sense. So The Sixth Sense. Who directed that? Oh, it was M. Night Shyamalan, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
his
when his films
his
were
second
good.
film. Yeah. So he'd done a sort of forgettable first film, which was like a plain old drama, and then The Sixth Sense is really what kind of broke him out.
Well, the thing is with him,
Yeah.
I mean, he had a really good stint for a while, didn't he? He had that. I mean, he was kind of well known for having the big twist at the end, wasn't he? That was
Yeah,
his
that
thing.
was it.
So,
Yeah, I mean he still does that a lot, even in the
yeah,
like films. But
they
I
just
think
haven't picked
yeah,
off. You know, they just haven't done as well as like that was The Sixth Sense, and then he did Signs. That's another big. Well,
yeah,
Signs isn't a big twist, really. Oh, it is a bit at the end.
yeah, a little bit. Yeah, but then in between those, he did Unbreakable as well.
Okay, I don't know that.
Yeah,
Oh, the one with
so
Mark
that's
Wahlberg.
no, Unbreakable was another Bruce film.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah,
I don't know that one. Um, but yeah, and then he did The Village, so that was another big twisty film.
yeah,
But yeah, we can't go without talking about. Is it The Sixth Sense or A Sixth Sense? The Sixth Sense.
yeah, yeah,
The. Um, yeah. So he's really good in that film because he's very kind of you kind of see a real empathetic side to him, don't you? Because he's playing like a child psychologist or psychiatrist.
yeah. I mean, he plays it quite sort of. He's a very quiet character in the film, and he's sort of very receptive, and he listens a lot.
And it's
So
quite an unusual film to sort of see him in, isn't it? As a
yeah,
child, you know, he's this really sweet guy who works with. He's been recognised for working with children and doing amazing work for so many years, and then he comes across this little kid who makes you feel really old, Tom, now because he's 34.
I know that's just depressing.
I know, right? You
Yeah.
put on the thing on the film lovers page. Oh, well, that makes me feel old. He's not that kid anymore, Tom.
Oh, definitely not. No, but
um,
I mean, he was so good in that film as well.
he
Haley
was.
Joel
How old was
Osment.
he in that film?
He must have been. I was trying to work out the maths there. No, I think he was about 11, something like that. Yeah, he's 34 now, and that was about 13 years ago. Must have been about 10 or 11 when they filmed it.
And
Um,
when did that come out? I can't even remember.
99, and so they probably filmed it 98 maybe.
And it was
Um,
quite a big film at the time, wasn't it? Because it was like the big
yeah,
the big ending was like, oh, what's the
yeah.
ending, Thomas? Thomas?
Well, let's not spoil the end. Let's
I think
should we
everyone knows what the end is.
just do. He's a ghost.
Yeah, he
I've just
basically.
ruined it for everyone.
Oh, I'm sure by now they've all seen
Yeah.
it. they've had they've had like 20 years to catch up and watch it.
Yeah, but no, I think it's even if you, it's one of those where some of them like Shyamalan's films, once you know the twist, the film kind of loses it a bit. But I think with The
Yeah,
Sixth Sense, it's really well made and really well acted, so you can kind of go back and watch it again, and then you start spotting all these little clues along the way.
yeah.
Um,
And Toni Collette's really good in that film. I mean, you wouldn't sort
yeah,
of
I
see
think
her in a film like that, would you?
no, not so much back then. I guess she was more of a comedy actor when she first started out. So yeah, she's really good.
I mean, even now when I watch it, I kind of forget that it's her because, I mean, she has done lots of serious stuff since, but
Yeah,
it was quite an unusual film to see her in. I can't remember what she did before. I mean, I just remember her earliest one is Muriel's Wedding. I still love that film so much.
Oh,
Muriel's Wedding.
that's a really good film. Yeah, but I love
Mariel.
Toni Collette. She's
No,
no,
she's
she's
really
such a
good in
good
that film.
actress. Yeah,
That's one of my favorite films of hers. And it's what's the other one? Little Miss Sunshine.
yeah.
That's another good one.
Yeah.
So yeah. But anyway, so we go back to Bruce Willis.
And also, you mentioned Mark Wahlberg before.
Oh
It's also
no, it's
got
not Mark Wahlberg. It's his
it's
older
got
brother.
Donnie, isn't it?
Yeah.
Was he the one? Was he New Kids on the Block?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was his first sort of film as an as an actor. So it was quite unusual because he got really skinny for it as well, didn't he?
Yeah. But his performance in it is really kind of chilling as well.
It is, because he's
really
basically. Why didn't you tell everyone why it's chilling? He's like one of the boys.
Yeah, he's like an ex-patient, isn't he? Now grown up.
Yeah, he's a boy that has the same kind of problems as Haley Joel Osment, who basically sees dead people, but was never really helped and was kind of, I guess, they didn't understand. So basically he grows up and he's very, very skinny and he ends up shooting Bruce Willis. So, yeah.
And the assumption is that, Bruce survives it, but obviously then by the end you realise that he actually died.
He is really chilling in that film, though. I mean,
I know, I've never even seen Mark Wahlberg with a performance like that. So,
no.
Well done, Donnie.
It's just the way he turns up in the bathroom out of nowhere, like in his tiny whitey. And he's really skinny as well. He had to lose lots of weight for that. So, yeah, he's really unrecognisable in that film. And he feels completely disappointed and basically broken because he was never helped by Bruce Willis, even though
he sort of feels let down by Bruce's character in that.
But no, that's still, I think, one of the best films from that time period for sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, it really does hold up because I think there's like a period between sort of, I don't know, 98 and 2003, 4 where there wasn't really that many, really top films. It was getting a bit kind of uninspiring, but that was one of the better ones.
For sure.
For sure, yeah.
I just like that he's so empathetic in that film, and it's quite he shows a very humane side to him, which nobody has probably seen him do in other films, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's, very kind of restrained kind of performance as well. He's very kind of silent, but he's kind of understanding with it as well. I think it was one of his best performances.
For sure. And also he's a dad as well, so he could probably relate to it a bit more.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
It's a child with problems and they're trying really hard to help him. And they don't know why, they don't know what's going on, etc. So they're just trying to get to the root of the problem, really.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So, yeah. All right then. Well, let's go into one of yours.
Okay. Right. I'm going to do one of the obvious ones here. I'm going to go Pulp Fiction.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's one of the best films made, isn't it? So
yeah.
It's
do
just
you know what?
This...
I've never seen it.
Oh my! Right. I think we're gonna have to end this interview here now.
No, I know of it, and I know it's famous, and I've seen bits of it. Yeah. It's just, I can't handle all of Tarantino's films because of the goriness to them, but
it's definitely got that side of it.
Yeah, no, I
it's
know.
Not as bad
I know
as,
of it very well. I know the bits, the famous bit, but so I do know of it. Yeah, and I see lots of references, etc., etc. So I know Bruce Willis is in it, and he ends up.
It's been referenced so much, hasn't it? So...
Yeah, it has, and it's on YouTube, and it's famous for its quotes and stuff. But I know, I mean, it opens up with Bruce Willis shooting John Travolta, doesn't it? Is it that?
It doesn't open there, but I mean that does
Oh
happen.
no, it opens up with the robbery.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So no, I mean it's this interesting kind of collection of all these characters, kind of, and then Tarantino kind of takes the narrative and kind of flips it all over the place.
Which is well
But then,
known. He
yeah,
was well
but
known for.
everything kind of links together. So
Yeah. A bit like
you know,
Reservoir Dogs.
yeah. So eventually, Bruce Willis, you know, his character interacts with John Travolta uh, in a quite famous scene, and other things like that. So it's really good. It was a bit of a comeback film for Travolta
Well,
at
he'd gone
the time.
his career had gone kind of down the pan, really, hadn't it?
Yeah, I think he'd got to like the third Look Who's Talking film or
Yeah,
something.
they were getting quite bad.
And then he was starting to kind of get into this
Right.
area where he was looking at video, straight to video stuff as well.
Mm.
That was kind of like where he was heading, but Tarantino kind of pulled him out and
Yeah.
gave him that role.
And of course, that was Samuel L. Jackson's breakout film, wasn't it?
Yeah, his breakout film as well. So he'd been a really good sort of character actor for a number of years.
Yeah, he'd done
Picking
lots
up,
of films, but
yeah, but
he never
you know
really
he'd
sort of
never really got centre stage, had he? So
no.
yeah,
And he was still kind of, a sort of suffering actor
yeah.
in and out
So I
all the
think, you know, in some ways Bruce is a little bit unfortunate because it's one of his best performances, but because you know you've got Samuel L. Jackson breaking out, because Bruce was like the star name in the film. Basically, he's
Oh,
like the,
okay.
because you know he's the one that's really kind of on the up. You know, he's been doing Die Hards and all this stuff that's making money.
So was
And
he the one that was kind of um bringing everyone in and was
I
like the
guess
main?
he was the most bankable star there.
Okay, so that's the
Um,
one they would have marketed Bruce Willis in this film, and then John Travolta
yeah,
in the family.
yeah, yeah. So you know, to an extent, uh, obviously, because it's the Oscars and everything, they like comeback stories. So they gave Travolta a nomination. They like newcomers breaking through, so they gave Sam Jackson a nomination. I think Uma Thurman as well.
Hmm.
I can't remember who won and who got nominated, but
Eric
yeah,
Stoltz is in that film as well. There's so
yeah,
many famous people in that film. There's like
it's
Tim.
loaded. Yeah,
There's who else is there? Tim Roth.
Tim Roth, Amanda Plummer, Ving Rhames is in it as well.
I don't know.
Harvey Keitel is in it as well.
Really?
Yeah, he's in it. Do you know
Oh,
the
and there's a
yeah.
cameo from our friend.
Oh, Buscemi Buscemi.
Yeah. Do you know?
Yeah.
Remember we spoke about this. Who does he play?
Oh, he plays the waiter, doesn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
nobody
that's it.
knows. And then it's it's
That's
kind of
what I
come up
almost
very
forgot there. Yeah.
recently. He's
Yeah.
hidden behind this waiter outfit, and he wouldn't. But then obviously you recognise his voice, and it is
Yeah.
him.
But do you know those adverts with Harvey Keitel?
Yeah.
Is it Direct Line? I think he does them for.
Yeah.
That's basically his character in Pulp Fiction.
No worries about
But
dogs.
yeah, he plays this guy that sorts everything out. So
Oh, okay.
he's basically in those adverts. He's playing his character from Pulp Fiction.
My friend worked with him
Did he?
a year or so ago.
Yeah.
He did a film. My friend Rob did a film with Harvey Keitel and Malcolm. What's his name from Clockwork Orange?
Oh, Malcolm McDowell. Yeah.
Yeah. He did a film with both of them. And he seems like a really nice guy, Harvey Keitel. And
Yeah, I think he plays so many intense characters. But
yeah, no, but he seems like a really sweet guy. He said the same thing. I mean, they seem to all get on really well, so they're very nice. I mean, they're elderly now. They're in their 80s.
Harvey Keitel he must be in his 80s now.
Yeah, but he's really sweet apparently. So I think that's why he always comes across as being a very likable person. Because even though he's in, I mean, I haven't seen Pulp Fiction, but I saw him in the Reservoir Dogs. Even though he's like a bad, nasty guy at times, he's actually a good guy as well. Does that make sense? So you can see a likable side to him.
Yeah, he's got so much kind of charisma. You almost can't help but liking him.
Yeah.
Because he did a film called Bad Lieutenant as well, which was kind of very kind of dark, but then he's got this kind of charisma as well.
Yeah. And that charisma comes up really well in. I didn't realize he was in Thelma and Louise, because he's really good in that as well. He's very kind of. Actually, he's very endearing and empathetic towards the girls and what's happened to them. He's just worried about them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, he's a really good actor, and it's good to see him still kind of working.
For sure.
So he keeps popping up every now and again in all these things.
Yeah, yeah.
But
so
also,
sorry.
Yeah, another person in Pulp Fiction is Christopher Walken.
Oh, I heard about this. Is he a big part in that film?
It's literally one scene, and he almost steals the whole movie.
Really? Well, it's Christopher Walken. So.
But it's just Christopher Walken telling this. He's talking to a young Bruce Willis. He's playing a friend of Bruce Willis's dad, an old army buddy who's brought this watch back to give to Bruce Willis's character. But it's the story of how he's transported the watch.
Yeah.
It's quite a gruesome story because it involves sticking it up somewhere. But he tells it so kind of straight face without any disgust or anything, as if it's totally normal.
Yeah.
Get this watch to Bruce Willis.
I've got a question for you, and I think it's a question everyone can relate to. What do you think is in the case?
Oh, I don't know.
Because it opens up. I know of this scene. I know of like lots of scenes, but the bit where is it Samuel L. Jackson?
There's one theory I think that it could be. So the main gangster played by Ving Rhames. Do you remember the big black guy from Mission Impossible?
Yeah, is he in it?
Yeah, that's Ving
he
Rhames,
plays Uma Thurman's husband, doesn't he?
Yeah, so he's Uma Thurman's
Marcel.
husband. Yeah, so there's a theory going around that in the case is his soul.
Okay.
Then, you see this little mark on his neck, like a band-aid on it. And I think there's some belief somewhere that, you can extract someone's soul through the back of their neck. And he's got this little kind of plaster on the back of his neck that you see sometimes. So that's kind of one theory of what it could be. But I'm going to go with that. It's his Marcellus Wallace's soul.
Oh, really? Because you know what Tarantino says? He says that everyone comes up to him and asks him what it is. He goes, well, I know what it is, but he goes, I want everyone else to figure it out for themselves because it's more interesting to see what everyone else thinks. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's basically left open to opinion, up to you. So, and he wants to know what you think, not what he thinks. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like we'll never really know, really. So but yeah. All right then. Is Bruce Willis in the film for long?
He's got quite amazing. So I guess there's like three main kind of stories in it. So you've got Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson have this like a main story, and then Travolta and Uma Thurman, and then Bruce Willis has his own kind of story as well.
Okay.
And then there's a few like side stories and small moments, and then everything kind of links together.
Okay.
So Bruce Willis plays a boxer. He used to be one of the best in the business, but it's kind of like downhill. He's asked to throw a fight, but he doesn't, which puts him in big trouble with Ving Rhames. So he has to go on the run, take his money with him. And there's this whole thing with this watch that Christopher Walken gave Bruce Willis as a kid, where basically he's left and he's gone on the run and he's away and clear, but he's forgotten the watch. So he has to go back and get it. And that's kind of where he gets caught up.
Yeah.
Because he's gone back to get this watch. It's, all these little stories are really engaging. And I think Bruce Willis is, really, really excellent in it.
Yeah.
And if it hadn't been for kind of Samuel L. Jackson and John Travolta kind of having so much limelight from the film, he might have been, recognized
Well, that's
At,
it. Is that you don't really you kind of forget that he's in it, don't you? Because
yeah,
it's kind of John Travolta and Samuel Jackson that kind of steals the show, really.
yeah. I
So
mean, they get these so many of these kind of memorable dialogue scenes.
yeah,
Um, a lot of their scenes are a lot of it is about the dialogue, and then
like Le Big Mac.
yeah, it's almost incidental. It's almost meaningless, but it's just like so much fun happens from their kind of scenes together.
Yeah,
A
yeah.
lot of the comical moments, but I think with Bruce Willis, he goes on this slightly darker odyssey in the film,
Mm.
and it ends up with gimps and things like that. It just goes a bit weird.
Yeah, yeah. Who's the gimp?
Yeah, and yeah, no, it's no, he's so good in it, and the film is it's just a masterpiece, really, of connecting all these things together and making it really engaging.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and I think like unlike maybe with Tarantino's more recent sort of films, he has really great moments in them, but then he has these moments where it all falls a little bit flat, maybe, or it's
Yeah.
too indulgent. But I think in like Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs, he kind of nails everything.
Well, they were kind of like
Yeah,
his finest points, I think, in his
yeah,
career.
yeah.
Sure.
But yes, particularly like with Pulp Fiction, because there's so many different things happening. Sometimes it can be a little bit difficult in films like that to keep it kind of
Going.
up to such a high level, but he manages to keep it at a high level throughout.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
sure. Okay. So, do you forgive me that I haven't seen it?
Well, let's say I'll give you a couple of months to watch it.
I'm too scared. I know. I mean, I've seen so many bits of it, so it kind of feels like I have seen
Yeah,
it. You know what I mean? I know of it so well, and and I've heard of that awful. I've seen that awful scene, and my mum told me about it as well, where they're driving and Marvin's at the back, and he goes, "Oh,
yeah,
I've just accidentally shot Marvin in the face." So yeah, but and then there's that scene where Uma Thurman overdoses and Eric Stoltz sticks a thing in her, and so
yeah,
yeah. But is Eric Stoltz in that film? Is he meant to be kind of like the dude in The Big Lebowski? Because he's kind of like in the same clothes and doesn't seem to be doing
yeah.
much of his life.
I mean, he could be in a way, yeah. But I mean, he's like a sort of just a drug dealer.
Oh, he's a drug dealer,
Yeah,
isn't he?
he's a drug dealer in it. Yeah,
Okay, because he just sort of hangs around in his shorts and his robe.
yeah,
So yeah. All right then. So is it my go?
yeah. You'll go.
So we're deliberately not talking about Die Hard, aren't we? Because we've spoken about it so many times.
Yeah.
But I'm going to cheat and say Die Hard 3
Oh, okay. Yeah,
because that's the very first film I'd seen of the franchise. I mean, I knew of the earlier ones, especially the first one, but I'd never seen it. And the third one was the very first one I'd seen as a teenager at a friend's sleepover, and they rented that film. So I can't remember how old I was. I think it was about 14, which is probably when about it came out, because it was like 93, 94, 5, something like that. And that's a really good film. It's with Samuel Jackson again.
yeah.
Oh yeah, actually, I would have thought that must have been after Pulp Fiction. So that would have been
That was after, yeah. I think 95 Die Hard 3.
okay.
Yeah.
Did they? Quick question then, because that reunites Bruce Willis and Samuel Jackson. Had they worked together in a scene in any of the scenes in Pulp Fiction, or were they none of the same scenes with each other?
I don't think I think they kind of half did. So there's a scene where they're all in the same room, but they don't really interact.
Oh, okay.
Um,
So maybe even though
yeah,
they're in the same film, because you hear about how actors they're in the same film, but they never actually worked together really because they never
yeah,
saw each other. They were never in the same scenes. So that was an interesting film because by Die Hard 3, I mean when it gets Die Hard 3, by then he's basically divorced or separated from his wife again, and
yeah,
basically kind of like an alcoholic. He's this washed up cop. He's always drunk and hungover, and he gets basically suspended from the police force, doesn't he? And he's
Yeah,
basically brought up last minute, and he's completely hungover to help with this terrorist case. And the terrorist is asking for John McClane, and he has no idea why. The police are, they're like, well, they want to talk to you, and they want you to deal with the problems. So, and they don't know why either. And then it turns out that Jeremy Irons' character is basically Hans Gruber's younger brother, really. So it's a really good film because you don't need to know actually any of the details, or you don't have to have been able to seen the first or second one to know it's okay to follow the third one, if that makes sense.
yeah, no, that makes sense. I think it works in its own right. So
Yeah, because
yeah,
it's basically a separate film entirely, really, isn't it? So
yeah,
you don't really need to know all of that stuff or being able to see all that stuff because it has no real relevance in the story at that time.
yeah, exactly. I think what was interesting is, where Die Hard 2 was almost like a carbon copy of Die Hard 1, so they thought this is kind of like the formula we want, and then we'll just do it again.
Yeah, but you know
Whereas,
what? I tried watching the second one and I just got bored.
yeah, they repeat too much of it, and I think
Yeah.
it's not quite as interesting.
Whereas the third
Um,
one was very
yeah,
suspenseful, and I watched it recently, and it still kind of leaves me on the edge of my seat. It's very, um, it's more like a thriller, really. Whereas the first one, I think, is more of an action film. Does that make sense? It's
yeah,
really
exactly, yeah,
tense and unnerving at times. And him and Samuel Jackson are like an unlikely duo because actually Samuel Jackson is quite, he hates white people. And he basically says, all white people are like racist towards us, but it ends up that actually he's the one that's racist. Um,
yeah,
and yeah, it is a really interesting duo put together because then you realize actually they need each other for that, that whatever's going on at that time. So it is a really interesting combination of characters. You got this washed out cop who's an alcoholic, and then you got the Samuel Jackson who's been thrown into this out of nowhere, and he doesn't want to be there, and he doesn't understand, and he's just like completely like I hate white people kind of thing. But then they kind of grow to like each other, if that makes sense.
yeah, exactly. They're kind of thrown in together, and they kind of have to reluctantly partner up and work together.
Yeah,
But I like that kind of, that whole thing where Bruce Willis is getting sent round the city doing all these kind of tasks.
yeah. No,
Simon
that's really
Gruber,
good.
yeah, and then it kind of shifts toward the ends back into more kind of conventional action,
Yeah,
which
sure.
which I guess the fans want at some point.
I like that when Jeremy Irons sort of opens up by saying a lot of the way he starts off these tasks is by saying Simon says.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like,
Well, I think the original script was actually called Simon Says.
really?
Yeah, so it wasn't actually going to be a Die Hard film. It was originally written, I think, with Brandon Lee in mind to star in.
Ah,
So it kind of, so what you happen sometimes with these old spec scripts, um, sometimes they might get picked up and then kind of changed slightly to
yeah,
become something else. So this obviously got adapted into becoming a Die Hard film.
yeah. No, it is actually a
Yeah,
really good way of setting up your protagonist if you're the bad guy by sort of sending them on these errands to avoid bombs going off. So, and there's one point where they're at a telephone booth and they think everything's about to blow up, so they get down, and everyone's still walking around doing their thing, and they answer the phone, and they're like, "The bomb didn't go off," and he's laughing at the other side. He goes, "Simon didn't say." Like, I didn't say Simon says. It was
Yeah,
like Simon Says be on Wall Street at this time and this time. And I like the riddles he gives them as well. Like Samuel Jackson's very good with figuring out these random riddles. Like there's like seven, can't remember what it was. There was like seven wives or something like this. And
yeah.
where's
And
Bruce
it's how,
Willis?
getting balancing the water in the jugs, isn't it, as well, on one
Yeah, I
moment.
think of Bruce Willis, like he's quite good with solving them out as well. But I think he's more kind of impulsive. Do you know what I mean? He does
Yeah.
it by impulse, whereas he's not. I don't
And
know, really. It's hard to
he's
describe.
always got half a mind on, well, why am I doing this? Where is someone watching me? Can I kind of get out and find this guy?
Yeah.
Where, Sam Jackson is always more focused on
Well, that's it. And
how
there's one
to,
point he goes, can we just focus on the task? Like, and he goes, no, we have to get to this. He goes, let's just focus, focus on this. So they're very interesting, kind of partnered up together, really. But no, I like the third one a lot. I thought it was because, like I said, the second one I tried watching it and I just lost interest. It just seemed too much like exactly like
yeah,
like they were trying to copy the first one too much, and it just didn't work for me. Um, but the third one is really good, and I rewatched it recently, and it still kind of has me on edge. So I definitely think the third one is probably the next best one after the first one for sure. What
yeah,
do you
definitely, yeah.
think?
No, I think so too. Yeah, I really enjoy the third one. I think it's actually a little bit underrated. I think in terms of like
Yeah,
'90s action movies, I think it's one of the better ones of that
yeah,
order. It is. It's kind of like on a level with things like Speed and those
yeah.
kind of films. I think.
I saw that again yesterday as well.
Yeah, that still holds up very well with your
It's
with
such a
your
good
boyfriend.
film. Oh my god, it does really hold up really well.
Yeah,
Um, for sure, and that's on Disney Plus as well, so that's worth watching. Um, is there anything else you want to say about the Die Hard films? Oh, I tried watching the fourth and fifth one, and it just didn't work for me at all. I gave up. Was the
yeah.
fifth one the last one that says another
The
good day to die hard or something really crap?
yeah, yeah. The that's the fifth one, the last one, which I've never been able to finish.
No,
Um,
even
no,
he hated that film, didn't he?
yeah. I mean, I rewatched the fourth one, and I used to think it was a little bit kind of sort of average, mediocre. I quite enjoyed it watching it again though. The fourth one, I think, because uh, it was good to see Bruce Willis kind of on form again at that time, and
Yeah.
also I think at least the first kind of three quarters of the film are pretty good. It just gets really silly at the end, and he starts surfing on F-15 jets and things like that, and it just becomes a bit too indestructible, even by John McClane standards.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, but the whole thing about this terrorist taking everything down with technology and just causing absolute chaos just from a computer console,
Mm.
I thought was quite a good concept. You know, in terms of the modern age.
Um, do,
Um,
sorry.
yeah, no, I mean it wasn't a patch on like the first one or even
No,
the
for
third
sure.
one, but no, I'd say it's better than the second one.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
All right then. I was going to say something and I completely forgot. It'll come back to me. All right. So, do you want to go on to one of yours?
yeah, okay. I will say.
We're kind
Oh,
of running out of options now,
I'm
aren't
running
we?
out of Bruce Willis films now. I think I'll go Red.
Okay, I don't know that
Um,
film. Was that with Helen Mirren?
yeah, and I'm not saying it just because it's got Helen Mirren in.
Because you love Helen Mirren.
I do,
Are you
yeah.
sure?
Uh, yeah,
Okay, okay.
yeah.
Why
I'll
Red?
say no. I think it's quite a fun film. Bruce Willis doing kind of action comedy, more kind of leaning on comedy again, but it's got like it's this cast of old timers who are kind of brought back into action. So they're all ex spies or hitmen and things like that. So you got Morgan Freeman, John Malkovich, Helen Mirren in it as well,
Hmm.
and it's just a lot of fun. It's not it's not like shatteringly good or like going to be a game changer. It's just kind of a bit of escapism, really.
Yeah.
So the cast is so good that they kind of um, interact with each other really well.
Mm.
Willis has a lot of fun in it because he's kind of like the straight man to all these kind of slightly more eccentric characters like John Malkovich. So Malkovich.
I was going to say that's whenever you say his name Malkovich, I just think of that film and that scene where he's in the
Yeah,
restaurant. Malkovich.
yeah,
There's all these Malkoviches everywhere.
yeah. Malkovich, heads up.
Oh yeah,
Remember that? But yeah, someone actually did that without Malkovich knowing, and it
yeah.
ended
No,
up
I know,
being kept in the
and
film.
the extra apparently got paid
Yeah,
for it.
yeah,
But it was just like a thing he did, you know. So actually, he assaulted Malkovich, but it worked really well, so he got paid for it.
yeah. I think Malkovich was quite good about it in the end. I think
Yeah,
probably because he's quite a method sort of actor, he probably appreciated that bit of
yeah.
improvisation, I guess.
I mean, the extra obviously did it for a reason. You know, what I mean, it wasn't just
Yeah,
to assault one of the you know the main leads of the film. It was, you know,
yeah.
he just felt that. But it's true though. You would do that, wouldn't you, if you were like driving by or whatever?
What if you were driving by John Malkovich, you'd say
No,
something
just
at
but
his
if
head?
you were a complete hoodlum and you were driving by with your
Oh
window
yeah,
down and you
yeah,
wanted to just annoy someone, you just say, you know, throw a can or something at
yeah,
them. I don't know. I'm just, you know, if you're drunk or whatever, not that you should be
yeah,
driving, but you know what I mean. So,
yeah. So you know, Red is quite a fun film, and it's just quite fun seeing all these great actors together, having you know a lot of fun with each other, and Helen Mirren wielding a machine gun. That's quite interesting to watch. She's playing pretty much the most badass character in the film, really.
yeah, but she has said
Um,
she loves doing those action films.
yeah, I mean, she says she really enjoys doing like the Fast and Furious films
Yeah, because she really
as
wants
well.
to, she said you don't act in them, but it's a lot of fun just blowing up cars and things, which it would
Yeah,
be. So,
yeah,
um, yeah. So Red,
yeah, and there's a sequel as well. I can never really kind of interchange the two, really, but the
okay.
sequel is pretty much more of the same.
Um,
With a slightly bigger cast
yeah.
of cameos and things. Yeah, but no, they're both quite fun to watch. They're good if you've got a couple of hours free and you want to watch something that's quite fun.
Mm, that's worth watching, is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
and I think they're both on. They might both be on Prime as well.
Okay.
There's a lot of Willis stuff at the moment on all the kind of Prime, Netflix,
Oh, is it
and
really? They've obviously
Disney Plus. Yeah,
picked up on it.
yeah. I mean, there's always been a good selection anyway, but you know, they've kind of been popping up more of his old classics as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All right then. So it's a good, you know, a good what do you call it? Note to watch on the bank holiday Monday. Yeah.
Oh yes,
Um,
yeah, it's a good bank holiday film. Yeah,
yeah, for sure.
yeah.
Should we do one more?
Yeah, can do.
And I
Have you
think we
got
should
any
wrap it up.
more in mind?
Yeah, I can only. I mean, I'm kind of running out of options now. So, but we can't go about talking about Look Who's Talking, can we?
Yeah.
So, to be honest,
Okay.
I haven't seen that film since I was a teenager, so or kid. So I need to
Yeah.
rewatch it. Um, I tried to yesterday, but I couldn't. So, I mean, all I remember is that he's the voice of like the sperm coming out or the baby. I don't. I can't remember from the beginning. Is he?
Yeah.
He's a baby, basically, isn't he? It's the voice of the
He's a
baby.
baby in it. Yeah.
So you never
Um.
actually see him. He's just voicing over, really. And John Travolta's his dad, and Kirstie Alley is the
Yeah.
mum.
Kirstie Alley. Yeah.
So yeah, and then by the second film, it's when his baby sister's born, and that's voiced by Roseanne Barr, which is a really strange
It's really
combination.
strange, but also really annoying.
Yeah,
I
her
quite
voice.
like. Yeah, I like the first one, but the second one was just. It was becoming obviously the idea had been worn out slightly, but also it was just a bit grating with Roseanne's voice.
Yeah, she's got a very.
Yeah,
I
particularly
don't
as
know.
she's playing a kid, so she's overdoing it, sort of.
Yeah, but I've
Um,
always found her strange and uncomfortable to listen to. I don't know why. She's got that funny kind
a
of
little bit, yeah.
kind of noise going on. But yeah, and I do remember the first one was very funny.
Yeah, the first one's funny. It's quite entertaining.
Yeah,
Bruce Willis is probably the one that steals the movie just from doing his voice work.
yeah, sure.
Because there's not a lot of chemistry between Travolta and Kirstie Alley,
Mm.
from what I can remember. It's a little bit of a weird coupling, really.
But I think they
Um,
work really well actually as a couple on screen.
I can't remember too much of that really, but I think
Yeah, I see what you mean.
yeah,
Yeah, a bit of a strange duo to put together.
a little bit. She's never really kind of. I
Taken
mean,
off,
that's
has
probably her
she?
biggest in terms of like movie stuff, but she's always been more known for her TV stuff, hasn't
Yeah,
she?
yeah, like
Yeah.
Cheers and stuff. Um, but yeah, for sure. Is there? I mean, I don't know what to say about Look Who's Talking really, because the last time I saw it was when I was a kid. So I just remember it being really funny, and that he was really funny as the voice of the baby, and the baby being born.
Yeah, I mean, because the baby's always like wisecracking and things like that.
Yeah, because I
Uh,
remember I
yeah,
do remember he was the sperm at one point. So he's obviously the same thing. It's the sperm that becomes the baby later. Um, but I remember the sperm trying to find its way through, find its way through um, to the egg or whatever. But yeah, no. But I need to rewatch it. Is there anything you want to say about Look Who's Talking? There's not much I can really say about what I've just said because it's been so last time I saw it I was a kid, so I can't remember what to really
yeah.
talk
No,
about.
I think it's been about 10 years since I watched it. I'll be interested to see how it's aged.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's funny, isn't it? Some films age well, and some films really don't age at all well. So
yeah,
I'm sure, like when we look back on it, it'll be sometimes a bit cringeworthy, maybe, possibly. I
yeah.
don't
Possibly, yeah.
know. Is there anything you want to talk about it?
No, I think we've covered Look Who's Talking. But I
Yeah,
think Bruce is the best thing in it.
for sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. He's the one. Did they have like a big premiere? And did that film do really well when it came out in the box office?
yeah. The first one did pretty well.
Yeah, and then by the second and third, well, the
Yeah,
third one, that's when
I
his
think
career was going
the third one
downhill.
sort of killed it, and then that's kind of that's when Travolta was kind of losing all his box office appeal.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But Tarantino went on record for saying he actually really liked all those films, so he's seen them all. And I think that's how he got Travolta onto his project because he really liked John Travolta.
Yeah, I think he'd watched a lot of Travolta's films. I know he's a big fan of Blowout, which was
Hmm.
a Brian De Palma film.
Okay,
Um,
is that with Travolta as well?
yeah, that's with Travolta. Yeah,
And
um,
he did his very first appearance was in Carrie as the boyfriend,
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, so
nasty boyfriend.
Tarantino, yeah,
Yeah,
really likes De Palma films. So he obviously he's got that going back that kind of era when Travolta was just sort of coming through the ranks.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He was so good looking, Tom, in what was that song? What was that film that made the Bee Gees really like popular?
Saturday Night Fever.
Was that the first one, or was that, I can't remember. There's two of them. Staying
Yeah,
Alive.
Staying Alive was the second one,
Oh, okay.
which was sort of terrible. It was directed
It was.
by Sly Stallone, but then it's become
Was
a
it still
bit of a.
directed by Sylvester Stallone?
It was, yeah, it's because basically Travolta in that one, he was like heftier than his normal kind of frame, so he put on a lot of muscle in that film. because
Okay.
he'd been training with Sly Stallone.
Ah.
Sly Stallone wanted him to bulk up a bit, so that's probably the best shape Travolta's ever been in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas prior to that, he was a lot more svelte.
Yeah. He
Um,
I hated the first film. I mean, I thought it was really seedy, and none of those characters were likable. I mean, he was towards
yeah,
the end, but at the
because it's
beginning,
actually it's more of a drama really than a kind of people
yeah,
associate with the music, but it's got some intense drama in it as well. That film,
yeah. There's some really
yeah,
uncomfortable moments in it, and it's just really, just like this looks really seedy.
yeah,
but oh, he was so good looking in that film, and in Greece as well.
yeah.
But anyway, so I think we've talking and run the gambit really now, haven't we?
I think so. We've covered most of Bruce's classic
Well-known
works.
films.
Yeah.
What was that one that he did? There was one he did which was kind of very risky. Was it The Color of Night or something?
Uh, rings a bell. That would
It
have been
was
like
very,
in the
very,
80s or something. Yeah.
yeah. I remember my mum saying it was a really good film, but it was very sort of, risque. What was it called? I think it was The Color of Night or something. And he did like a lot of sex scenes in it. Let's Google
Yeah,
it.
it rings a bell. I think it was one of his. It was after Die Hard, but
Oh yeah, yeah,
maybe
it is
different.
Color
Yeah.
of Night. Um, so it was like an erotic mystery thriller film. So yeah, it did have quite a lot of saucy scenes in it. With Jane March, who was in it as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, but and that was 94. So had you ever
Yeah.
seen that film? I'd never seen it.
I'd never even seen it. No, I think it's
No.
coming out around about that time. It's just after sort of Basic Instinct, where so many of these kind of films were being made.
Yeah.
Because it was a little bit of a resurgence because they'd kind of gone out of fashion in the late 80s, and
What,
then
those kind of erotic thriller
yeah,
films?
because there's things like Body Heat in the early 80s, and then 9.5 Weeks. Then they kind of topped out a bit, and then Basic Instinct kind of set it all going again.
Yeah, because then there was like films like what was it
Last
called?
Seduction,
The Last Seduction. Oh,
yeah,
that's such a good film. We spoke about that already. There were lots of them, weren't they?
yeah.
So,
So there were
so
so many of these kind of thrillers around this time.
is this because of the success of Basic Instinct that kind of spawns this kind of
Yeah,
make of
pretty
film?
much, yeah.
Yeah,
And then you had low budget versions in the video stores and on TV as well.
yeah.
Um, so there's this famous channel in America called Cinemax. They used
Uh-huh.
to show all the kind of the low budget equivalents, like the rip-offs.
Yeah.
But they nicknamed the channel Skinemax.
Oh, okay.
Um, but our equivalent here was Channel 5 that used to just show these kind of films late at night.
Channel 5 is so bad.
It is. It's terrible, that channel. Um,
It's always shown really, really bad films and stuff.
yeah, or trashy TV.
Yeah, do you know what? I remember one point, right, when I was at college, and 2 or 3 of my classmates were obsessed with this really, really bad American show called Sunset Beach.
Oh no, I used to watch that.
And apparently it was so bad it was good. Like they'd be talking to
Yeah,
themselves, and I don't know, a piece of the set would be falling down, or they'd just, someone would walk off and then they'll just stand there talking to themselves in front of the camera.
yeah. It's
And
just that it's like
all
instead
trash.
of like The Bold and the Beautiful and things like that, but even like a lower brow version.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. No, I
What
remember. I
happened to that
remember that.
show?
It didn't last that long actually. In the end, it was like I think it ended in the late 90s because
How
that
did
was
it
one of
end? Did everyone die in plastic surgery?
probably yeah. I didn't. I think I didn't see that many episodes, but I just do remember sort of occasionally flicking onto it and finding it quite amusing.
Yeah, I think that's why everyone else watched it.
Yeah, but I think it was one of the flagship Channel 5 shows originally.
Yeah.
which says it all about Channel 5, really.
Well, I just remember when it came out in the 90s, it was all the kind of I think it was meant to be quite, I don't know, not risque, but like, meant to show a different kind of TV and films, and it just didn't have the following I think it wanted to have, if that makes sense.
No, I think as well as that, obviously the budgets, Channel 5, they weren't getting all the kind of material that Channel 4 and, BBC were getting.
Yeah, for sure. All right, then. I think we've kind of gone off point.
Yeah, we've kind of skewed into Channel 5, yeah.
Yeah, that's dangerous territory. It's like going down a wormhole. Anyway, is there anything else you want to say about Bruce Willis?
No, I think it's just that obviously in light of, what's happened in his retirement, because he's done sort of so many, straight to video kind of supporting roles lately, I think people were kind of almost forgetting how much good work he's done. But I think after his retirement, people have sort of taken a moment to look back and think, oh my word, he's done so many, great
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
And he was such a great actor.
He
Because
was
he had
born
a bit of, he had a bit of friction with, Kevin Smith.
Did he really?
Yeah, so Kevin Smith had directed a film called Cop Out with Bruce Willis.
Uh-huh.
And basically they didn't get on at all. And then Kevin Smith he'd done interviews and he'd done books and he does these kind of events, speaking events, and it often, Bruce Willis used to be a subject in it. Stories about Bruce Willis's behaviour or whatever. But after the announcement, Kevin Smith sort of came out and said he really regrets it, and he's decided to try and look back on more of the positive moments that he had with Bruce as well.
Do you think that had a lot to do with his diagnosis?
Well, that's what he was wondering. Actually, he was wondering if it went back that far,
or was it just generally his, I don't know, being a bit of a diva behaviour?
He did have his moments, but that could have been born out of frustration from not being those things starting to happen or manifest themselves. But
yeah,
even Bruce Willis in more recent times had been talking to people, and he expressed some regret about some of his behaviour.
Yeah, but we all do when we look back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So
Kevin Smith's quite kind of philosophical about it now.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah, he put out quite an emotional video because someone at a Comic-Con event kind of thing had asked him about Bruce Willis and if he regrets kind of, saying about these things. But
yeah,
he said it was kind of good that he could now start to look back at more of the positive things.
Yeah.
But also, try and forget all the negative things. And also, he said it was good to remember that he was a Bruce Willis fan again.
Of course.
Because before he'd actually worked with him, he was a die-hard fan. Massive Bruce Willis fan. He thought he was Bruce was basically one of his favorite actors.
Mm.
So I guess that that would have been difficult in such a way where you're working with this guy. Yeah, I'm just getting offered Fruit Loops here. So yeah, working with one of your heroes and it doesn't quite pan out as it should. So yeah, that would have been difficult.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that's sorted.
Yeah.
All right then, and you're being interrupted by your cheeky monkey Lulu.
I am. Yeah, I'm getting lots of Fruit Loops.
Is she there now?
Yeah.
Ask her what her favourite Bruce Willis film is.
Well, do you know, she was introduced to Die Hard quite young.
What? Does she remember it?
While she was in the womb, yeah. She was kicking at the time. So she was obviously getting excited. I did joke once that, we should probably play, have Die Hard playing as she came out during labour.
All right then, I'll let you go.
Okay, sweet.
Thank you.
Yeah. See you later.
Take care.
Luna's will say
Bye.
bye as well. Bye bye.